Greetings to you. Thank you in advance for the time agreed for the interview session arranged today. The topic of discussion today is referring to the education system that being adapted, being practiced, or anything else possible being carried on now to suit the current situation during the world pandemic. As of to my understanding, online teaching and learning are more like of any kind of educational activities, but with few differences. Hence, it is never an easy task, I believe, till now with many obstacles and shortcomings, despite of the advantages acquired during this time. However, the online learning has its own features when compared with traditional learning and teaching activities. Under normal conditions, online learning is less popular than classroom learning. With the inception of COVID-19 pandemic, it became a need to adapt online learning and teaching due to the lockdown and social distancing intending to stop the spread of virus. Coming to our session today, what is your perception of online learning in general?
Well, there are many pros and cons of online learning. Online learning is more flexible than classroom based learning. Students can work through the material at their own pace. People who need more time to grasp a concept can have more time to complete the task. People who want to work faster can do so. Mm, Online is not as simple looking at the challenges both the students and the teachers face. In some cases, it brings ease as it doesn't need everyone to be physically present in the class, but it has other challenges which can be addressed only by physical presence.
Does online learning require extra effort? And if yes, what's the extra effort like?
Online learning doesn't require extra effort besides practical aspects. In online learning, you can repeatedly listen lectures and understand them.
How online learning is easy as compared to face learning?
Online learning includes time flexibility, and those students who live far away can take classes from home or at their offices. There are no more transport problems in online learning.
What is more impactful, online learning or on site learning? Why do you say so?
Guess both have their own benefits. In practical aspects, on site learning is impactful, otherwise, online learning is impactful.
Which is more difficult, online learning or on site learning? Can you give examples to elaborate further?
On site learning is more difficult because of time restrictions, transport problems, etc.
What are the issues with online learning?
Internet problems, loading shading, lack of interaction between students and teachers, etc.
Are you able to satisfy students in online learning?
Yes, to fulfill students' satisfaction, I get students to participate and ask questions about topics. At the start and end of each class, my students are required to give an overview of the lecture.
How did you use teaching aids in online learning for demonstration of concept?
I use Zoom, Google Meet for demonstrations.
What are the infrastructure challenge in online learning?
There are no infrastructure challenges that I face.
How difficult was it to learn the use of equipment and getting IT skills for online learning.
It was a bit difficult to learn IT skills because I know little about the technology, but later on I learned with putting in effort.
What were the problems in the assessment?
In the assessment process, it was difficult to handle huge number of students. There was chances of plagiarism in papers and many students copy each other.
What were the strategies to deal with issues in general?
For online learning internet facilities, electricity should be available.
How did you find solution for student satisfaction?
For students' satisfaction, I basically provide them necessary student materials like notes, books, presentations, etc. Solving individual student problems by giving them time to discuss their problems.
How did you solve the issues related to practical or demonstration to students where needed?
Videos allow students to learn through repetition.
What were the strategies related to infrastructure?
No strategy because there is no infrastructure problem as far concerning me and my students.
How do you ensure student participation?
Through questioning and answering sessions.
How did you ensure that all students have learned properly?
By randomly asking questions. Formative assessment should be ongoing during class.
How do you address the issues reported by students?
By arranging a session in which only students' specific problems can be resolved.
Any other comments?
Yes, I feel like if the situation gets better as now the vaccination is going on and people are getting vaccinated and with some safety measures, the mixed mode of online learning and physical classroom will be an appropriate setting whereby online session is combined with on-site lectures that needs demonstrations in physical classroom online.
Yes, I do agree with you. Thank you so much for your time today and hope that your sharing can become a good sharing session for the others. Thank you once again. Greetings to you. Thank you in advance for the time agreed for the session arranged today. The topic of discussion today is regarding the current education system that is being adapted, being practiced, or any other better word it could be on how to suit the current situation of pandemic. As for me, online teaching and learning are more likely the kind of educational activities comes with few differences. Hence, it is never an easy job. I am pretty sure till now many obstacles and shortcomings has override the advantages of online learning during this time. Hence, the online learning has its own and features when compared with traditional learning and teaching activities. Under normal circumstances, online learning is less popular than classroom learning. However, the inception of COVID-19 pandemic arised the need to adopt online learning and teaching due to the lockdown and social distancing intending to stop the spread of virus. Referring to our session today, generally, what is your perception of online learning
Well, online learning is one of the important methods of learning these days, especially due to COVID lockdown. It is replacing the classroom learning because we are following the SOPs of COVID 19 as an essential aspect in today's lifestyle. Online learning is helping us to break down the chain of COVID spread, although it has difficulties, but it is a good alternative option to keep the education running. Both the students and teachers will feel safe while performing activities from home. Hence, online learning is popular these days.
How does online learning differs compared to face-to-face learning?
Obviously, there are differences between online learning activities and a classroom environment. The common difference is via online learning, students and teachers are connected from a different places and they do not have to travel to school, colleges, universities, and other institutions, but they perform their activities and lectures from their own place. Secondly, more technologies or technologically support is required in online learning compared to physical classroom.
Does online learning require extra effort? And if yes, can you explain?
Definitely, online learning activities need more effort for teaching preparation because the students are present at their own place and can only talk through a microphone. Teachers have to ensure students learning by making efficient efforts to deliver lectures, conduct assessment, and to demonstrate student on lab-oriented subjects. Now, online learning also need extra effort to explain, elaborate subject matters to students, which can be easily demonstrated in the classroom using a different type of models. Students also can practice with such models. Besides, it's also take extra effort and energy to bring all the students on board and keep them engaged throughout the lesson.
How can online learning be easy as compared to the face-to-face learning?
Um, Now, online learning is easy in sense that is does not need everyone to travel to classroom, and there is no seating arrangement required in classroom. Unlike online learning gets everyone connected through internet while staying at home.
What is more impactful, online learning or on site learning? Why do you feel so?
Now, it cannot be judged easily that online learning or classroom learning is more impactful. However, the classroom learning has a greater impact for the classes being carried on face to face, and students create an environment where they interact and learn. While online learning has its own impact that can make students and teachers more familiar with online learning technologies and the use of software applications. Now, however, not all education institutions have same IT facilities. Therefore, they differ in their impact with respect to online learning.
Which can be more crucial, online learning or on site learning? Can you elaborate further?
Online learning is more difficult because it needs a full package of education aid in the form of software application to the study material compilations. Now, it is difficult for teachers to respond questions asked by students to fulfill their satisfaction. Some students are seriously participating in the class, and this challenged the teachers to identify students when they participate without their video being turned on. Online learning also more exhaustive in some cases where teachers frequently take classes sitting in front of camera and looking at the screen and not moving around frequently. Now the flow of presentation are sometimes interrupted by some students and teachers cannot identify the students them. I don't know if it's teachers' weakness or students, but attentive listening skill for all students is sometimes crucial for teachers.
What are the arising issues with online learning?
Now, there are many issues. In fact, a long list of issues initially. Now, the students and teachers were not ready for online learning when the COVID breakthrough happened. Now, it took time to develop the habit and to get familiar with the norms of online learning. The IT facilities and required equipment was not available earlier, but later the institution purchased online meeting apps like Zoom, subscriptions along with other hardware facilities like cameras and microphones. Yet students used to participate like dummies. They were just connected but not present and were not listening. Teachers has to ask everyone whether they are okay with the audios and the videos, and if they receive emails and the study materials, teachers has to compile and send either before class or weekly after the lectures. Students are faced issues like internet connections and IT facilities. They were connecting from several different areas. Likewise, they had different facilities and all of them were not having a good facilities. Though things have changed now, but there were more problems initially. Student-teachers communications and information exchange was suddenly interrupted and disturbed.
Are you able to satisfy students in online learning?
Yes, we tried to satisfy students to be best of possible. At times, they were not satisfied, like I already said, they faced several issues, and COVID 19 fears was also sometimes disturb students, and they were not willing to participate. Now, a student who has to do that laboratory works like biological science were unable to do their lab work because the access to labs were not allowed in the session. So obviously they were concerned about their loss of learning.
How did you see, how did you use teaching aids in online learning for demonstration of concepts?
Online classes allow us to use the resources available online or the PowerPoint presentations, some videos for demonstrations, and the books or texts. But however, the other educational aids were not practically possible. For instance, students could not participate in group discussion, lab works, the classroom presentations, and research work. So the use of education and teaching aid was partial, like whatever was easily possible.
What is the infrastructure challenge in online learning?
Like initially, the proper setting or studio for video conferences and online classes were not set up. So the IT equipment was not ready for all teachers and several other materials were not readily available. Many of us has to take classes from home and they were not like good environment for classes, or sometimes we has to take help from department for arrangement of space where teacher can peacefully take the online classes.
How difficult was it to learn the use of equipment and getting IT skills for online learning?
Well, we use many gadgets and software which are easy to use, and we learn as we use, so there were not much difficulties in learning the application. And use of learning aid. We use Zoom, Google Meet, Skype, and Microsoft Teams, as well the Google Classroom, and it was not much difficult to learn all those. But however, the student had issues where they had internet issues or good quality audio video facilities. Now, many of the students who wants to participate or they had questions in mind during the lectures were not able to ask because in some cases teachers has to mute the students to avoid noise, though some students were making strange sound disturbing them, so the mute were applied to all.
What were the problems in assessment?
Now, the traditional assessment methods could not be applied because we had many type of assessment prepared along to the physical classroom. But for online learning, the assessment has to be redesigned so that the student can attend online monitoring and online assessment was a tough task, though open book exams were prepared and students created their group to jointly attempt such exam and also use various sources which were not supposed to be used. It was difficult to monitor.
What were the strategies to deal with issues in general?
In general, the teachers discussed issue with administration and the senior faculty who could work at decision making level and discuss the possible solution.
How did you find solution for student satisfaction?
Solution for student satisfaction were not simple and easy because it was not a single issue. There were many which were affecting student satisfaction. The students were complaining about many issues they faced during the online learning, and we focused on those issues to increase student satisfaction.
What were those issues in particular?
As we discussed earlier, that many students had connection problems or issues. They were feeling burdened even when teachers used to send a lot of reading materials, home assignments, and short assessment as well. Listening the lecture was an important issue, which was an improvised version by addition of an enhancement features technology to the class equipment. The device rule for conduct a class which must be followed by teachers and students because many students were disturbed and could not ask questions due to their mute mics. After setting the rules, students could talk and ask questions. The rule imposed fine and marks deduction on the students who were not involved in creating disturbing sound and noise during the class.
How did you solve the issues related to practical or demonstration to students where needed?
It was really difficult to solve issue of the practical work and the use of lab in online classes. It was planned on site and we divided students in different groups who had to visit the lab on alternative days and could use laboratories to maintain distance and other safety measures. We were unable to use labs online.
What were the strategies related to infrastructure arrangement?
Keeping in view the challenges related to the infrastructures, the administration and senior faculty members have jointly supported the provision of required IT equipments and arrangement of the proper space for teachers as required on campus.
How do you ensure student participation during online class?
Well, we learned as we moved on during online learnings because initially we were not much aware of the issues related to the environment of a virtual classroom. As we took the classes, we identified issues that there were hurdles in students' class participation. We developed rules and norms for student participation. We asked students to send emails explaining their concern, and those emails were then considered while setting up the norms of classroom for online learning. Besides that, students were given options to send their questions in text forms through chat box and emails, which were either replied during the last section of the class or in the next class, or some cases students had option to call teachers. Now, the participation was also ensured to keep discussion around the topics as well as addressing different students with their names and asking to follow up questions and assigning some weightage to the class participation.
How did you ensure that all students have learned properly to attain the objective?
Generally, we receive feedback from students about their learning and also check through quiz and short assessment. Other than formal feedback, we also discuss with students whether they have learned the topic they were taught. During the lectures, students are also given the option if they do not understand anything, they can ask questions to further clarify.
How did you address the issue mentioned by students?
Well, it depends on what issue are reported and we address them accordingly.
Any other comments?
Although online learning was difficult initially, but over time it is getting better because both the teachers and the students are getting more familiar and habitual of the process. Now, it has a long term positive impact that we see with the evolution of appropriate techniques of online learning and virtual class management.
Thank you very much, teacher, for your sharing session. We believe
Welcome.
your sharing session can contribute much to the others out there right now, because many of them are still struggling on how to impart into this new learning era. So hope your suggestion, your strategies can be shared to all of us. Thank you again.
Welcome.
Greetings to you. Thanks for the arrangement made today for our discussion with regards to the current education system during this pandemic. As of to my experience, online teaching and learning are more or less of any educational activities, but comes with few differences. Yet, it can never be an easy task. I'm aware the online learning comes with many obstacles and shortcomings, despite of the advantages acquired during this time. However, the online learning has its own features when compared with traditional learning and teaching activities. Under normal conditions, online learning is less popular than classroom learning. With the inception of COVID-19 pandemic now, it has become so necessary to adapt online learning and teaching due to the lockdown and social distancing intending to stop the spread of virus. How do you view and what is your perception about online learning being practiced as a trend now?
As a teacher, I believe that learning shouldn't be stopped in any case. Well, if I talk about online learning, it has both good and bad effects. But if I analyze the situation of pandemic, then I would be concluding that it really helped us so much to make this learning possible for all grades, even at Montessori level to primary level and so on. Students are taking their online classes and instead of sitting idle, they are learning. If not 100%, but at least 80%. But they are learning still. So, if I summarize, I will say it is a good platform for the current situation now.
How online learning differs from face-to-face learning?
There is a huge difference between online learning and face to face learning, but it's totally a different scenario. If I talk about the learning environment, then I will say that online class is totally a teacher centered class where the students are least bothered, but sometimes it varies too. Whereas when I talk about face to face learning, which is a student centered learning that is more effective as compared to online learning for some subject like maths, statistics, etc. As students need to practice in the environment to learn, online learning can be used as a tool, but it's not a perfect substitute of face to face learning.
Does online learning require extra effort? And if yes, what could be the extra effort?
It definitely need more effort as compared to physical class because it's very difficult to manage compared to physical classes. Furthermore, online classes, online learning is expensive as compared to physical class. The parents sometimes do not afford the gadget as well as connectivity platforms, especially in remote areas. The parents are not able to provide online education for their children. So I think 50% of population is taking their online and the other 50% are not taking their classes just because of these issues involving connectivity and gadget and handling, etc.
How online learning is easy as compared to face-to-face learning?
You can say that it's not hectic compared to physical classes because both the teacher and the student attend classes from their comfort zones. In fact, they sit at their places and take assessment. Teacher do their work and achieve their goals comfortably.
What is more impactful, online learning or on-site learning? Why do you say so?
According to my experience, I believe on-site learning is better than online learning with the students going to their schools and universities with the mindset they are going to do something or have an objective to achieve, but when they are sitting at their place for their classes, they will not take the class so seriously. They will not listen carefully as they do in their on site classrooms.
Which is more difficult, online learning or on-site learning? Can you give examples to elaborate further?
Well, online learning is difficult as compared to on-site learning, mainly because it needs more expenses to fulfill the objective, yet it is difficult to manage because students' assessment is not too fairly done to upgrade them properly. As a teacher, I'll be giving examples to my students on present continuous tense and then giving them activity to make different sentences by using present continuous tense in class. They will try and make somehow correct or wrong answers by themselves. But if I'm giving the same activity for them to do at home, they might not do it by themselves as they will be just copy and paste.
What are the issues with online learning?
Basic problem is connectivity issues and gadget handling, and it's expensive. Everyone can't afford it.
Are you able to satisfy students in online learning?
Teachers know that how much of effort is and what is this product of effort as a teacher. I believe that yes, I satisfy my kids and I satisfy myself and my job requirements.
How did you use teaching aids in online for demonstration of concepts?
By playing different games and by showing them videos, basically I provide them different kind of content so that they can practice it with fun.
What is the infrastructure challenge in online learning?
Infrastructure sometimes matter and sometimes not. But if I talk about my experience, I did not face any regarding instruction because I was conducting my online classes from my institution where I'm working. So it was very easy for me to take my online classes and it was a smooth process.
How difficult was it to learn the use of equipment and getting IT skills for online learning?
Yeah, it a start. It was different and difficult, but I learned so many things as I come across my weaknesses. I try to overcome, and now I'm very good at using these gadgets, etc.
The problems in assessment.
Basically, the problem was dishonesty of the students because they can use many means of copying, and it is very hard to keep track on online assessment. So it is very difficult for me. I do not consider this assessment as a fair assessment, but as far as we are in the pandemic, we have to be with it.
What were the strategies to deal with issues in general?
Using different strategies for different kind of issues, such like an assessment, sitting face to face.
How did you find solutions for students' satisfaction?
I was bringing in improvement in my teaching by taking reviews from parents.
How did you solve the issues related to practical or demonstration to students where needed?
Providing them different kind of videos and materials where they can practice to make learning easy and joyful for them.
What were the strategies related to infrastructure?
As I mentioned earlier, that I was doing it from my institute, so I was not having any issues.
How do you ensure student participation?
Asking questions again and again by calling their names to keep them attentive and participate.
How did you ensure that all students have learned properly?
Ask the question by the end of the lecture. Meanwhile, I do ask them question progressively and I take different kind of examples from them to know how students progress.
How do you address the issues reported by students?
Pin on the situation, for example. If any student is not able to get the concept, then I make a video specifically by teaching that content.
Any other comments?
If a students are willing to learn, they can learn it anywhere by online or at campus classes. Provide the motivation of the students and dedication in them is always supported.
Thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome.
Hope for your sharing can become some good guidance for the rest who have just started the new era of teaching and learning. Thank you very much.
Best of luck.